make sure you don't get caught in the middle.
The only middle here is the middle C.
Name your tune.
Okay. First song you ever taught me.
It's better as a duet.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is
Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Thursday morning. This is the You Can't See Your Own Hand edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, and Inforum.com. Happy Thursday to everybody. Wherever you're watching, in North Dakota, Minnesota, it stinks outside, literally. Even for you in South Dakota, it's right there too. It's not ideal, and apparently it's going to be this way for a majority of the day on this Thursday. Stuck my head out the window this morning to let the dog out, and it just is like it's gross. And immediately I thought of two things. A, can we get this out of here because it's just nasty out? And B, for Bison football fans, they will know exactly what I'm talking about. Because 8 years ago, which is crazy to say that out loud, 8 years ago, the 2015 Bison football opener was played in Missoula, Montana. And was the only game of the day. It was a week 0 special. This is before everybody else caught on to the idea of playing in week 0. The Bison were playing in the FCS kickoff game. National television, ESPN. Brent Musburger was calling the game for ESPN. Big deal. And we had heard leading up to the game that there were forest fires happening in Canada that were lingering down into Montana, and it was creating a haze. It was air quality was an issue, and I dug up this video here. I mean, this is before the game. You can see the foothill of the mountain of where the stadium is built into. You couldn't even see the top of it. Actually, might be able to see me in that shot. There's the one. Like, you cannot see the top of the mountain. That's of the haze that was there. It was lingering all game long. I was out shooting highlights up top of the press box there, and literally you had a headache. You stunk. Your clothes stunk from it. It was nasty. And I know the game officials from both NDSU and Montana were monitoring the air quality before the game to make sure it was okay to play. It was not great. on top of that, there was a thunderstorm that was looming that they were actually anticipating maybe moving ESPN's setup from up top of the press box where you see it says Montana Grizzlies. That's where ESPN was set up to inside, which was a debacle. Thankfully, that never materialized that day. But immediately, that's what I thought of this morning. And there's a couple other games that come to mind. NDSU's other time in Missoula, 2003, was delayed because of forest fires, them getting there. They had Kolpak's written about it a couple of times, and in his book it's there, and people know the story of NDSU couldn't fly into Missoula. They had to bus an hour and a half to get there to play the game, and of course had the infamous upset that day of the Grizz in 2003, which is the 20-year anniversary coming up this year. And then 2 years later, after this game was played in 2015, in 2017, the Bison were back out west to play at Eastern Washington in Cheney, and same thing was happening there. It was actually really bad the day before the game. That's where there was actually some legit concern that they may not play the football game. It burned off a bit on Saturday, but it was still nasty. So, it's not ideal, clearly, and I know there were some sporting events yesterday, specifically out west, that were canceled. I think Dickinson baseball was going to play a second game of a doubleheader, and the air quality was so bad that they didn't even play the second game. And it's a legit issue here for everything happening today. So hopefully I didn't make light of this yesterday, but everything that we've dealt with for the spring sports already in terms of, well, they had horrendous weather that they couldn't play any games from March 31st to May 1st, basically. Now here we are. The weather has cleared, and now we've got this to deal with. It's just unbelievable. And I know there's track events happening. Hopefully this is going to get out of here from our storm tracker meteorologist team. They tell us it's going to get out of at least the eastern side of the state slowly as the day goes on. We have baseball coming up tonight at Newman Outdoor Field with the Bison and the Jackrabbits. That it will slowly but surely get its way out of here and be a better day tomorrow. But it's that lingering smell, taste, it just gets into your clothes. And it's just nasty. So hopefully this gets out of here before not too long. But immediately I thought of that game this morning as I was outside with a dog. Like, this just nasty. And hopefully we can get out of here in the not too distant future. So with that, welcome to our show, everybody, on a busy Thursday. Excited about what we got coming up on our show today. A little bit of everything we're going to be chatting about on our Thursday morning spectacular, including the Minnesota Twins. We'll show you what happened with their game with the Dodgers yesterday. They didn't just lose, they got beat up yesterday in L.A. Thankfully, they have a day off because they're going to need to reset the roster. We'll show you what happened coming up as our show moves on here today. NHL playoffs will resume tonight after a couple of days off, 3 days off, actually. The conference finals begin with Carolina and Florida tonight. NBA conference finals continue. The Heat just keep on winning. Miami went into Boston last night and beat the Celtics to go up 1-0. Game 2 of the West Finals is tonight in Denver. Speaking of hoops, yesterday, the first day of actual on-the-floor competition at the NBA Draft Combine in Chicago. North Dakota State's Grant Nelson playing yesterday for Team Richmond, ironically enough, which is Ryan Richmond, the assistant coach of the Washington Wizards. Didn't play a ton in the first half. There you see knocks down a 3-ball. That happened in the third quarter. He got a couple shots off in the third, missed that one. Got another opportunity here on a wide-open 3. This one's not going to be on the resume reel. He airballed that later in the fourth quarter. He actually played the most amount of minutes late in this game. Got another look there, knocked down the 3. 6 points in the game, made 2 shots out of 6 attempts. Again, this is where everything is going to be determined about what his draft status is going to be. Now, yesterday, hard to say. if you're just going off stat-wise, Nelson played 15 minutes, was 2 of 6 from the field. He took 5 of his 6 shots were three-pointers. Had 4 rebounds, and a couple of assists in 15 minutes of action. They will play again today. Grant's team will be on the floor shortly after 5 o'clock tonight in Chicago for the final game of 5-on-5 scrimmages. And it's tough to take a ton from this as you look. This is his measurables that have come in at the combine. That 9.99 pro lane time was what really jumped off the page on Monday in Chicago. 35.5 vertical jump. 8.11 on the standing reach. I love those stats. So, again, guys are out there, are super nervous because they know that everybody is watching. Every NBA executive is there for the most part, outside of the Final Four teams that are still playing, is there in Chicago. And I imagine there are some representatives of the 4 teams that are still playing that are at the Combine. And everybody's out there trying to get theirs, right? Everybody wants to show off. They are running plays and set plays, but they are invariably, you want, especially for a guy like Grant, you're out there trying to do as much as you can in the amount of time that you get out there on the floor. He played 15 minutes yesterday. We'll see if he gets a little bit more run today, hopefully so, and can shoot it like we know he can. I'd like to see him by the basket, driving to the basket. Didn't see that yesterday. It was more jump shots like you saw in the highlights that we just played. That's where he does his best damage at, is his slashing to the basket that makes him such a freak to stop. So, again, that coverage will be back today on ESPN2. It begins at 3 of the NBA Combine. Nelson will play at about 5 o'clock today for those that are wondering, that want to see him get back out there. Again, we have said it. Mike told us this, McFeely, on Tuesday when he was in Chicago, that a lot of the basis of what they get back, feedback-wise, will determine what he does here. After today, we have 12 days before the deadline. May 31st is the deadline, whether you stay in the draft or you pull your name out and you're going back to college. And again, then it's not a done deal that if he does go back to college, he's coming back to Fargo. I've been on the record on this. I think his time as a Bison is done. We know he's went into the transfer portal. We know there are several blue blood schools interested. But after today or tomorrow, we know he's got, I think, 8 or 9 visits lined up with NBA teams as well. So this process is not over after the game today. Frankly, it's probably just beginning. But it's going to be fascinating to see over the next week and a half how this is going to play out, if he's going to stay or he's going to head back to school. Lastly, we mentioned the Twins got beat up yesterday as they faced the Dodgers in the rubber game of their series in L.A. Heartbreaking loss on Monday in 12 innings. Came back at a really good win on Tuesday. Yesterday, Dustin May left the game with injury, and the Twins facing Dylan Covey, who hadn't pitched to the major leagues in 3 years. Get to him there with a Joey Gallo home run that tied the game up at 2 in the 6th inning. Sonny Gray had been his usual solid self. Bizarreness happens here in the 7th inning. I don't know. Pitchers, if their first instinct, if you don't want to throw it, don't. An error there allows Willie Castro to come in and score and give the Twins a 3-2 lead. Bottom of the 7th, though, is where things went awry because Emilio Pagan got in the game. And again, he is the biggest punching bag of the Twins roster, and he's been good prior to yesterday. Walks in a run there to tie the game up at 3. The bases are loaded. James Outman up at the plate and hammers this to center field for a grand slam. That ended up being the difference in the game yesterday. The Dodgers go on and beat the Twins 7-3 and take the series from Minnesota in a game that they had a potential to win, but Pagan's disastrous 7th, a third of an inning, 1 hit, 3 runs, 2 walks, and the home run, that did him in. as the Dodgers go on and get the win yesterday, and the Twins lose 2 of 3 in L.A. in the process. L.A., the Dodgers get to 28-16 with the victory. Twins fall to 24-20. Irony, Brusdar Graterol got the win, former Twin prospect that they traded to the Dodgers for Kenta Maeda. Graterol, the one who throws 120 miles an hour in the process there. We did not show you the injuries that occurred in this game. Nick Gordon got hurt. Joey Gallo got hurt. Their status is unknown going forward. We mentioned the Twins have an off day today, which they're going to need to reset the roster before they open up a series with the Angels coming up tomorrow night in Anaheim. We mentioned they fall now to 24-20 on the season. But since they play in the American League Central, nobody gained any ground because the Tigers lost and the Guardians lost. The White Sox and Royals won. We're happy for you. You're still 19,000 games under 500. That's a rough overestimation there. But the Twins are 3.5 up on Detroit and 4 up on Cleveland. We mentioned no games with the division here the rest of the month. After this, they've got the Astros on the schedule. They got the Blue Jays coming up. So there are teams that they will be playing that are not in the American League Central. As again, part of the new scheduling that you're not going to see a ton more of the Central Division as you did in past seasons. So we'll have much more on the Twins coming up in our second hour, which is a great way to segue to our guest lineup for today, which is a good mix. We're going to talk a little bit of everything on our show today. At 9:35, Wyatt Wheeler will join us from the Springfield News-Leader. He covers Missouri State University and the Bears and what the immediate future is for Mo State. Obviously, in the wake of Western Illinois leaving, I know Missouri State probably wasn't too sorry about that. Of course, Wyatt visited with Missouri State President Cliff Smart last week, and he made it known that Mo State may not be long for FCS. We'll discuss that with Wyatt coming up at 9:35. Seth Stohs will be with us at 10 o'clock from twinsdaily.com. As we mentioned, the injuries the Twins racked up yesterday. Also, Royce Lewis keeps hitting the cover off the ball. Are we not that far away from seeing a reunion with Royce? Maybe the injuries yesterday may have forced the Twins' hand on who is coming up in the not-too-distant future from St. Paul. Seth covers all those guys. He knows it better than everybody. And at 10:35, one of our favorite guests, we should probably change his title. He's still the Beach football coach, but he's also now our WDAY football high school analyst because he was on TV for us. I haven't had him on since he was during the Dakota Bowl. Beach head football coach Mike Zier will join us at 10:35. I know he's tweeting out because he's right out there where it's been bad out west that we got region track meets. He's also the Beach track coach. So who knows what's going to happen with that. And since it is the middle of May, we can talk Montana Grizz football with him for the upcoming football season. So we'll do that at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here on a Thursday morning. We come back. The Vikings have locked up their number 1 draft pick. We'll discuss that and a bunch more as Hot Mike continues after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, and Inforum.com. Welcome back, everybody, to Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, and Forum.com. You see a photo that the Vikings tweeted out yesterday of their number one draft pick, wide receiver Jordan Addison from Pittsburgh and the University of Southern California, signing his first official National Football League contract as they announced that yesterday. There's no more drama with rookie deals in the NFL now that everything is slotted. And you know what everybody's pretty much going to make. But the drama with this is because the Vikings didn't have any cap space prior to the NFL draft. And we talked about this during free agency in the middle of March, that there were going to have to be some decisions made with the roster to free up space. And one was clearly made Friday night with the trading of Zadarius Smith to the Cleveland Browns, that they were able to clear $10 million in salary cap space so they could sign Addison. The Vikings had previously signed 4 of their 6 draft picks, but lacked the cap space to complete Addison's deal until the Smith trade gave them added room. That's according to the Star Tribune story on the signing here. Addison will make roughly $13.5 million over his 4-year rookie deal, including a signing bonus of nearly $7 million. He would count for almost $2.5 million against the Vikings cap for this year, based on a $1.75 million cap figure for his signing bonus and rookie minimum salary of $750,000. So he's in. That's the 5th of the 6 picks. Clearly the most important. Mekhi Blackman, I don't remember if he signed yet or not. That would be the other one, his teammate from USC. That if I believe actually he did now. If I'm looking at but Blackman signed, Jay Ward signed, who they drafted in the 4th round. Jaquelin Roy signed, the defensive lineman in the 5th round, and Jaron Hall, their quarterback. That was the guy who was throwing the ball to Addison that you saw in the video, the quarterback from BYU that has signed so far for the Vikes in their rookie class. And you had their OTAs, and they put out a tweet, or actually on the Vikings Twitter header, if I remember correctly. And there are people that are sleuths all over the internet now. So on the Vikes Twitter header, they put out a new photo. And on that photo, you'll find the usual suspects on there. Justin Jefferson is there. Kirk Cousins is there. TJ Hawkinson is there. And thanks, guys. Appreciate you doing this. Alexander Madison is there. Again, Madison, Jefferson, Hawkinson, Cousins. Who's not there? Dalvin Cook isn't there. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, I think, to figure this out, that there's going to be a move still to be made. And again, for people that don't follow this or don't know on the deadlines on all this, June 1 is when a activator of his contract goes in. So the Vikes have 13 days to make something happen, which is going to. We've talked about it. We know Adam Schefter's reported on this, that the Vikes are still out there trying to make something happen here, and I imagine that will. But if you don't need another clear enough sign that the Vikings are moving on from Dalvin Cook, then again, look at their header on this. That would tell you everything you need to know on what's going on for the 2023 Vikings, because they still need probably more space to sign some guy. I don't imagine they're done with this roster, because you know why? They got to give Jefferson his deal. They will. I can't imagine they will go into the 2023 season without Jefferson having a new deal. They have already exercised the option, but there's his 5th-year option. There's no way. All the time you hear about this in training camp that such and such agreed to a contract extension. They want to do that either before training camp or OTAs, whenever. They want to make sure that is done. They got to pay him. So they got to find whatever money in the couch cushions they can to make sure that happens. But I thought that was hilarious that, you always take subtle hints on that. Much like, we've seen with the 49ers, what they've done at their quarterback spot. Speaking of QBs, saw this story as well yesterday before we'll shift gears and talk some college football here in a little bit. ESPN's Bill Barnwell, who does a great job covering the league and really insightful with analytics. He put together a list of moves that will happen or should happen before the start of the season. He also has a prediction spot for Carson Wentz. I was just asked about Carson last week on what's going on, haven't heard, what's he doing as we sit here in the middle of May. And Barnwell says he thinks that Carson Wentz could sign with Green Bay, with the Packers. Says one NFL executive suggested to me that Wentz might benefit from being out of the Northeast and away from the major media markets. The Packers are in transition after trading away Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love is taking over as the new starter, but the quarterbacks behind him on the roster are Danny Etling and rookie fifth-rounder Sean Clifford. Now, Jeremy Fowler, also from ESPN, reported last month that Wentz might wait longer into the offseason to see what develops. He's open to any role, starter or backup. We talked about this. I know it was debated a bit on the national stuff on this. We follow this obviously very closely here. I think I mentioned it last month. I would be surprised if he does not sign until training camp. That he waits to see if somebody, and invariably it happens. You're not wishing it on anybody, but invariably somebody gets hurt, somebody goes down and needs a guy. And maybe that's Carson's opportunity to sign with a team. Because if anybody, quote unquote, really wanted him, he would have signed by now. And for the role that he wants. I mean, we are 2 full months into NFL free agency. And I know there's some guys that are still out there, but had a team really wanted to pick him up, he'd have a team right now. So the move away from major media markets, I don't know. I kind of shake my head at. I mean, he was in Washington last year. I get, but how grilling of a spot is that in D.C.? It's nothing like Philadelphia. Nothing at all. Nothing will be like his experience in Philly. He played in Indianapolis. I know people that work in Indianapolis. That is not a, hold your feet to the fire kind of town. It's not. I'm not saying they don't have good investigative reporters or good hard journalists there. They do, but it's nothing like the grilling that he got in Philadelphia. So I look at that and kind of shake my head. And if I'm Green Bay, you just got rid of a major drama head case with Aaron Rodgers. Do you want to bring in a guy who the swirling around him is that, he wants to be a starter, and you want to have that indecision with a guy with Jordan Love, that you want to be the guy with a former number 2 overall pick? Granted, he's wanting to play. He wants to come in and he wants to play. I imagine he'd be the good soldier, but I don't know if that's the ready-made situation that would really make a whole lot of sense there to me. But we'll wait and see. I'm infinitely curious on where he plays. And we played that soundbite, when it was when Carson was released by the Commanders in February. Dan Orlovsky said that, either you be a backup or maybe it's over. Maybe it's over is maybe more of a realization than we thought. When I heard it, it was jarring. But at 30 years old, and he's had his chance to be a starter at 3 different teams, maybe that's more of a realization than all of us back here are willing to admit or accept. Who knows? We'll update that, obviously, as we go forward into the summer months. We'll take a break. We come back. The carousel of realignment continues. We know Western Illinois is on its way out. Is Missouri State going to join them? But they're going a different way. Wyatt Wheeler, who covers the Bears, will join us when Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra, KSFL, and Inforum.com. Don't forget, everybody, we've got Bison baseball coming up tonight here on WDAY Extra. Through the haze and the smoke at Newman Outdoor Field. South Dakota State, North Dakota State open up the final regular season weekend of Summit League baseball. Bison trying to hold on to that second spot. The Jackrabbits have to sweep them. We'll have coverage beginning at 6:30 tonight on WDAY Extra. Speaking of the Summit League, as we were talking about late last week and into this week, of course, there is an opening now with Western Illinois announcing its departure. Immediately, they'll leave for the Ohio Valley in all sports outside of football. They're going to hang around in the Valley for the 2023 season and then get out of Dodge. Our next guest has covered plenty of games between the Bears and the Leathernecks. I know he's not going to miss Macomb any much more than I am. It's great to have Wyatt Wheeler back with us from the Springfield News-Leader, who covers Missouri State. No one's going to shed any tears over Western leaving, but I'll ask you this. Do you think the Valley goes and adds anybody else? I think they're okay with 11. What do you think?
I think they're fine with anyone but Western Illinois. I think Valley athletic directors, presidents, I think they were celebrating and hoping that would happen for a while. I think some might even want. Youngstown State's another one that's kind of out of that geographical part of the Valley that I don't think anyone would mind seeing them go. Of course, they have some history and played well last year,
Yep.
but I think that's just a little out there. But Western Illinois, thank God we have Murray State now, so we can watch them. But I think there were a lot of people really happy that Macomb is out of the Valley, and I'm sure you're traveling and everybody else is around Fargo or celebrating to get rid of that trip. But I'm just glad Missouri State has one more trip to
I was going to
Macomb.
say, you guys got one more on the schedule this year, right?
One more. So, couldn't just one last trip and go to whatever restaurants they have there, see if they have a McDonald's open that time of year, something like that.
Now, see, I know it doesn't affect how you cover for, because obviously most state is full in the Missouri Valley. For the Summit League, it brings them down to 9. Our colleague Jeff Kolpag was bringing up Lindenwood as a potential a member for the Summit. What do you make? I know Lindenwood's a little ways from you, but what do you make of that? Would that be a trade there for what you've seen, how they've already made the transition to Division I?
Yeah, I know they've been aggressive, just kind of with that growth, just kind of watching from afar, I know they've scheduled Missouri State a couple times already for future conference schedules. I know they just went. We have Drury women's basketball down here has been a national powerhouse. They went and grabbed their head coach here this summer.
Yeah.
So I like what Lindenwood's doing. Just being aggressive there, trying to move up as quick as they can. So yeah, I wouldn't rule that out. That's a school in a good location that would be attractive to some conferences like that.
How would you feel? I guess, where's the buzz, Wyatt, on Northwest Missouri State? I know that they've been good in basketball and football, really good in men's basketball. I don't know if Maryville is a Division I town, but that, to me, if you're looking to go outside the box, and Augustana sitting there in Sioux Falls and Northern Colorado, which are, I think those are retreads. If you want to do something different, does Northwest Mo make any sense or not so much?
I don't read too much up on them. From talking to people that have been around there,
Yeah.
I think they like winning national championships. I think they like having a football national championship, a men's basketball national championship just about every other year. That's always the school. Whenever Missouri State is firing a football coach or looking to fire another coach, it's just like, hey, let's go poach one of their head coaches. You get rid of that if they were to go Division I, I guess, and some of that movement. But that is a very proud area that supports their teams. I don't think the media markets would make sense. I know Kansas City does touch them a little bit when they are playing in those championships late in the year, but not much else. So I'm not sure how much they want to grow when I mean it is attractive to
Right.
some students to have a national championship team.
I got to ask, I know because your story made some waves up here with your interview with Cliff Smart, the president of Missouri State, about saying basically it's going to be a matter of when, not if, on Mo State moving up to FBS. Give me your, I guess, your reactions from that story and what, I guess, the timeline when you think in your mind. We already heard Mo State's been banning about several times after Oklahoma and Texas started the whole realignment wheel going. What was your reaction from what he said to you?
You know, this was a little more direct. It was, I mean, I went in with some other stories that I was working on,
Yeah.
and I mean, this just came up through conversation, and it turned into a story just by having that talk. So the other times I would go to Kyle Motes, the athletics director, and I would be asking just like, "Hey, what do you think about conference realignment?" Because that's a big story, and Missouri State's got the budget that would kind of look like another one of those group of 5 type level
Yep.
programs, and it's just like, "Yeah, we would love to put ourselves in a position to be able to do it." Just kind of that talk, but this one coming from a chair of a committee that goes out and finds some of these schools to head to the valley, it's like, "Yeah, I think we're gonna be FBS someday."
Hmm.
It's just a little more just like, "Hey, this seems like a win, not if type of situation." But you are still waiting for just still talk. It's
Yeah.
still we've said this a few times. How about we make this happen? Um, Cliff is going to retire here in the next year and a half, 2.5 years. I know he would really like to be the one that would leave a legacy
Uh,
of moving the institution up to FBS. I don't know. I think the Sun Belt is what they would want to do.
hmm.
I think that's the one that would want just kind of and I think the big thing is to watch to see if a school was to leave the Sun Belt and go up. I think the Sun Belt would have a void to fill there, and that's where it would be really telling where Missouri State lands in all of this.
Mm.
He does mention they need football facility upgrades.
Yeah.
They've been trying to get $23 million to build a indoor football, not an indoor practice facility, but just like training
Yep.
rooms, a locker room facility. They haven't been able to get that. Where is the money going to come from to be able to pay to send your volleyball team to play at Coastal Carolina? Just to send all your other sports to all these different schools when you can't get to $23 million there. And I don't. You guys have been up to Plaster Stadium. It's not an FBS football stadium.
No.
Who knows what the facelift looks like on with the eventual building of this facility they want to do. But there's a whole side of the bleachers that does not look good. A press box that's behind some of the high schools here in town. I mean, legit, like some of the high schools have passed Missouri State facility wise with press boxes, indoor practice facilities, and Missouri State's behind in that arms race,
Mm.
even in the Valley right now. So what are they going to do if they were to get up to the Sun
Yeah.
Belt, get up to a Conference USA? Um, I think there's a little more room to go there, but who knows what these leagues are looking for
Yeah.
now because it's just we've thrown a lot of things out the window that we thought was important in the past just with all this stuff. I mean, it used to be like, oh, you need some fans in the crowd to be able to move up.
Nope.
It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter.
I am intrigued on what the coaching staff, the football coaching staff specifically, after your story came out. Is this something they're using on the recruiting trail now? Is Ryan
It
Beer
was.
going out and saying, hey, this is a possibility?
Every single coach came in and
Wow.
quote tweeted my story or retweeted the story,
Huh.
just like, "Hey, special things going on around here." So the coaching staff's all for it. I mean, you can. I mean, you know what? I mean, a kid saying, "Oh, FBS, I can
Absolutely.
be FBS instead of FCS." I mean, I can help build that thing into that. So why not use that? And the coaches, I mean, every single one of them, I think, except for head coach Ryan Beard, who would have a bigger voice and all that. came to that. But I saw like Nick Petrino, the offensive coordinator, all these other coaches were just like, "Hey, big things happened at Mo State. Let's go."
For people that don't know, obviously that Bobby Petrino has moved on. Ryan Beard is the new coach for fans up here. The Bison are back on Mo State's schedule. They'll head to Springfield in early October this year. Give us a sense of what kind of coach he is and what team. How similar are they going to be, Wyatt, from the team that we saw? Well, granted, it was 2021 when Mo State came up here.
Yeah, I really like Ryan. That's a defensive coordinator under Bobby. That's a son-in-law that was promoted. He was the obvious choice. Just from the set from even before Bobby was moving on, just like, okay, it's Ryan's going to be the coach in waiting. You want to do as much as you can to try to keep Ryan. When you know Bobby goes for an offensive coordinator job instead of a head coaching job at like an Akron or something, you're just like, this coaching staff, assistants, and everything, you want to keep this here because you remember what you had previously. You remember the decades of what you had previously, and you want to keep as much as that together as you can. So Ryan, just from a vocal standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, defense actually was the one to turn around before the offense did. It's just like, okay, this young guy could come in and be the head coach. So he's kept pretty much the whole staff together. You still have Nick Petrino as your offensive coordinator, will be calling plays. So really, it's just a big looking at how the roster is going to shape out, how they're going to recruit, what they're going to do differently, how much of a prestige kind of drops off by not having Bobby
Right.
Petrino as your head coach, and how that's going to affect recruiting. But I've liked the approach they've done so far. I don't know how competitive it makes them immediately, but you see the groundwork for development over future years. And maybe you could be surprised by a few guys stepping up, improvement of an offensive line that we've been talking about for this entire time, and see if the defense can maintain or take a step forward, even though it lost some guys trying to go to the NFL draft, getting on some rookie mini camps and everything.
I look here before I let you go. You have 3 of the first 4 on the road. Open with Kansas, and it's not the Kansas of old. The Jayhawks are obviously better. UT Martin has been a thorn in Mo State's side over the last couple of years. A home game with the former Dixie State, Utah Tech, and then a road game. SIU is right before the Bison game. That's a tough gauntlet to start for Mo State in 2023.
But they get Western Illinois 6, so I mean it's all right. But no, I don't know. I don't know how high my expectations are going to be for this year. Just kind of talking to you before, I think they could have around the same record as last year, but you can be more encouraged by something like that when you have this roster is going to be a lot younger than what we saw when Bobby came in, and you recruit these grad transfers to plug and play immediately. You're not going to see as much of that. They can't do that because they have some APR problems now. You have some guys coming in to try to get steps towards graduation, towards a degree. So I really like a few of these prospects. You're going to want to see that it's going to be a lot about the development. I think the offensive line's going to be better. I know I said that last year, but it's going to be hard to be worse than what we've seen previous years. So just hopeful to see that. And you're going to have a new quarterback that's quick. You're going to have Jacardier Wright running behind a improved offensive line, maybe some worse weapons on the outside, and a young defense. So you want to see progress. You want to see promise for the future, and I think that's what you're kind of hoping for this year. And if you're surprised, you're surprised, and they're competing, trying to get in the playoffs.
It's always great to talk with you, man. I hope you have a great summer. Let's do this again before the season gets going, all right?
Will do. Anytime, bud.
Good to see you. Wyatt Wheeler from the Springfield News-Leader joining us, covers Missouri State, does a great job on that. You can read his story online on Mo State and the FBS. We chatted about that last week, and Still got some traction there. The Bison will play the Bears the first weekend in October after Mo State was not on the schedule this past season. We're due for a break. We'll come back. We'll update you. Tom Hoagie's on the golf course, opening up the PGA Championship out in Western New York. We'll do that as Hot Mike continues right after this. Boy, look at that shot. If that doesn't tell you exactly what kind of air quality we're dealing with, that's, man, that is something else. Okay, a couple of emails to get to here off our conversation that we had with Wyatt Wheeler. Email comes in. Dom, what about St. Thomas as an addition to the Missouri Valley in football? I know we've heard this before. Obviously, with St. Thomas being a member of the Summit League, they are a member of the Pioneer Football League, which is non-scholarship. Everything that we have been told and asked about and inquired about this, that St. Thomas would have to obviously add 63 scholarships for football if they were to go and do that, which then offsets they need 63 scholarships for women's sports for Title IX equity. That's at least how I understand that, which is a massive financial undertaking. Not saying that St. Thomas couldn't afford that, but right now that's not what they want to do. There is some Title IX, I don't think issues is the right word, but some questions they would have if they wanted to go full scholarship in football. I know the players there get financial, compensation is not the right word, but they are taken care of, so to speak, for going to school at a place like that. But that's not in their plans right now. And again, I've said this before that, and I was wrong on this. I thought when they made the move up, they were gonna put some hay and some money into football. They wanted to be an impact player in football just because of how good they've been in the Division III level in football. Everything I've been told, they are going to put their eggs in the men's basketball, women's basketball basket. And that means probably higher goals in the Summit League, that they'll be okay with the Pioneer Football League for now and then maybe wait down the road to make a stealth move, maybe up to the Missouri Valley Football Conference to get themselves in a position to contend in the Missouri Valley Football Conference and then make that. You're seeing Glenn Caruso schedule that way. They have played Missouri Valley teams. They're going to play Missouri Valley Football Conference teams over the next handful of years. This past season, where they won 10 games and played all basically Pioneer teams and dominated them. Their only loss was to Southern Utah. They lost by 30 to Southern Utah. Southern Utah is not good in FCS football. This year, they're stepping up. They're playing in Vermillion this coming season. Then they will put the following year, they get Northern Iowa in their barn. Northern Iowa comes to St. Paul to play. The following year after that, they come to Fargo. The year after that, they go to Grand Forks. So they are incrementally doing this to schedule against the better teams in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. And I think it's smart because then if they have found the level of athletes that they think they can compete, and then by that point they can say, all right, we're ready for an invite, or we'd like to be considered for an invite. Maybe that's the best way for them to go about it. But as of right now, they got smacked around by Southern Utah. How do you think they would go right now if they were to play South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Northern Iowa? They played Northern Iowa in 21. That didn't go well. They played them down in Cedar Falls in their first year of Division I. Did not go well. Honestly, circle September the 9th. They play in Vermillion against USD. Let's see how that game goes. USD is okay. I don't think they're going to be in the top half of the Missouri Valley this year, but let's see how they play. They also have a game against one of my bucket list places to have a football game. They play at Harvard. Watch that game as well. I know the Ivy League doesn't play in the postseason. Circle that one. Harvard's good. And then they go into their Pioneer schedule, which they'll boat race those teams. So who knows? Maybe they'll be playoff eligible by the time that they're ready to go, and we'll see how it goes then. Because and I imagine they won't change the realignment or the way they bracket procedure, that invariably they'll play a Missouri Valley team in the first round of the FCS playoffs. Maybe then we'll have a clear idea if they're ready to compete or not. Real quick before we go to break, the PGA Championship was delayed by about 45 minutes this morning because of frost in western New York. My dad was telling me it's been chilly out there. Tom Hoagie was supposed to tee off at about 7:20 or 6:20 our time. Didn't tee off till about 8 o'clock. He's played 5 holes so far at Oak Hill. He's 1 over, tied for 32nd. one of the toughest golf courses in the world. He just bogeyed another hole because he hasn't hit the fairway yet, so he's now dropped another shot. So he's 2 over through his first 6 holes at the PGA Championship. We'll break. We come back. We'll shift gears to talk some Twins. They are beat up after yesterday's game with the Dodgers. Who's coming up? Who's being sent down? Seth Stohs will give us some answers on that when we start hour 2 of Hot Mike right after this.
Okay.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody, to Hot Mike here on a Thursday morning. WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, Inforum.com. Twins just wrapped up their set with the Dodgers. Heartbreaker on Monday, lost in 12. Nice game on Tuesday, beating Clayton Kershaw. Yesterday had a chance, especially when Dustin May got knocked out of the game with injury. But Emilio Pagan, who had been really good, resorted to the Emilio Pagan of 2022. And the Twins ended up losing yesterday. 7-3 was the final, and now gets set for a matchup with the Angels, which will begin tomorrow night. It's our pleasure to welcome back to our show Seth Stohs from TwinsDaily.com. Does an awesome job covering the Twins, especially on the minor league front, which is where I probably want to hit today, because after the injuries that happened yesterday, we may see some guys, Seth, they're going to have to make some moves between now and Friday night's game after what happened yesterday. I guess the first one is who's the first one we're going to, because they got Nick Gordon. They're going to have to find a spot for now.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to play with a fractured shin. So, for sure he'll be out. My assumption is that we'll see Edouard Julien again. The reason being that he can play second base, and with Jorge Polanco having the leaving yesterday's game with a mild hamstring thing again, they're not going to risk that. So I would expect Julien first. And then if a Gallo or Polanco does go on the IL, I can see, maybe Matt Wallner, Forest Lake kid. He's got a 980 OPS or so in St. Paul. We'll ignore the fact he was 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts last night, but he's had a really nice year with the Saints so far.
Let's first start with the Gordon injury. For people that didn't see it happen yesterday, it's one of those freak baseball things where a guy fouls a ball off, and even when you have the shin guard, invariably the ball finds you. He doesn't have that, but he breaks his shin, as you mentioned, and this is he's been valuable because he's played everywhere. That's the part that really hurts for Rocco Baldelli, because you've been able to move him wherever on the diamond, and he's been able to help.
Yeah, and he got off to such a poor start, and Michael A. Taylor played almost every day in center field. Lately, they've been platooning more, and Gordon's been playing a lot, which I think, of course, helps him at the bat as well. But you're right, he can play center, he can play left, he's played short and second. He does hit line drives, he can hit the ball over the fence. He does provide a lot of value for a guy that 2 years ago we didn't know what his future would be.
Yeah. Between that and then later in the game, Joey Gallo got hurt, almost a carbon copy of what happened with Gordon. Thankfully for Gallo, it looks like he avoided something as serious as what Gordon had happened. But this is, when it rains, it pours. It always happens with Major League Baseball, Seth. When guys get hurt, it doesn't happen once. Normally it happens in clumps of guys, like it happened yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, if there's one thing Twins fans know about over the last couple of years, it's guys missing time with injury. And you can bring in Nick Paparesta, who's one of the most respected physical trainers in the league, but if a guy hits a ball off of his shin and his shin breaks, you can't plan for that. So, it is what it is, and ultimately, I think they've done a nice job of adding depth. But, depth only lasts for so long. You look at their starting staff, they had seven starters. And now with Maeda out and Malley out for the year, now Ober and Varland are in the rotation, and now your depth is hurt again. So, you can only lose guys so often and so many times before it affects your team.
So you mentioned Edouard Julien I thought he hit well when he came up in his first stint. I was impressed, and we talked about him in March at the World Baseball Classic. I didn't think he did anything to hurt himself when he came up in his first stint.
Yeah, no, I mean, he didn't hit really for average. But he did get his first hit and his first home run in the same inning in New York. So that's kind of fun. But, he's just a guy that's he knows the strike zone. He doesn't typically expand the strike zone a lot. But he is working on becoming more aggressive inside the strike zone. He's got power. He's got speed. Not a great defender, but he'll make most of the plays at second base. I mean, he's just a solid all-around player.
The headline in the Star Tribune, I read this story yesterday, I laughed at it, is how do the Twins go from one of the worst starting rotations to one of the best? And Gray has been better, certainly. I think you look at what Joe Ryan has done, has been really, really good. And Lopez started off a house of fire. Are you surprised at all, or is this what you, I can't say expected, but for the main three guys of how the Twins have pitched so far this year?
I would say it's probably been better than I expected. In reality, when we talked before the season started, I talked about being more concerned about the offense than the pitching staff, which is so weird for Twins fans. Gray has been a little better than expected. Joe Ryan's been fantastic. He just seems to keep getting better. And Pablo Lopez has been good. I don't think he's even necessarily been great. And I think he's just really, really good. But then when you go from Maeda and Malley, like we talked about, and Bailey Ober is proving that, one, he handled getting demoted well, but that he's not a AAA pitcher. He's a big league pitcher.
Yeah.
And Louis Varland has been really good too. If nothing else, he generally provides innings, maybe 6 innings and 3 runs, but you'll take that most of the time if the offense can do anything.
All right, I got to ask you this, because now with the news that Malley is done and the trade that went down, how do we view that now with one of the guys in the majors helping the Reds out, one's coming soon? I mean, you always take a risk when you trade for starting pitching, but you cover those prospects. You know them better than anybody. How is that one grayed out right now? Obviously, it's bad because Malley's not going to pitch again, likely for the Twins. How badly could this one come back to hurt him?
Yeah, this is not good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to evaluate after the fact, if you evaluated at the time, Malley had some injury concerns with his shoulder, not his elbow. And you had to give up something good to get a guy of that caliber. It hasn't paid off. He made 9 starts for the Twins and he left 3 or 4 of them early. Spencer Steer is a stud. I'm a big fan. He's one of those guys that isn't going to impress you if you just watch him once, but if you watch him over a period of time, he just grows on you. Christian Encarnacion Strand is just mashing. I had a guy tell me, a scout for another organization actually tell me, they said, I mean, he's Pujols.
Oh, man.
He may not be able to play third. He really can't play first. He's a DH, but, and you can hit like Pujols. That's not bad. So
yeah, that's all right.
I guess that one makes up for the Nelson Cruz for Joe Ryan deal.
It's a good way to look at it, yes. But Twins fans, we're all ingrained like, oh, that's the one that got, especially with a guy like Malley, if he's done, he's a free agent after this year, that their time is over. And I know Derek Falvey brought this up, that it's always a risk when you're going to acquire starting pitching. And that's the thing we, as Twins observers, cover the team, that we complain the most about is them not going to get a guy. So when they do that, but this is the risk that you take on a move like that.
Yeah, it is. And you look at even the Taylor Rogers, Chris Paddock trade. Chris Paddock made about 4 starts, and then he had Tommy John, even though that was a concern. Taylor Rogers certainly wasn't good with San Diego or even Milwaukee, and he's had some struggles with the Giants this year as well. And then all of a sudden, Brent Rooker becomes like the biggest masher in baseball, and he was part of that deal too, even though 2 teams let him go last year.
Right.
So, trades are what they are. You have to take them for what they are at the time. The Twins had Jose Miranda at third base, and he was doing well. They still have Royce Lewis, and Brooks Lee and others that can play third. So they did trade from a position of depth for a position of need, which you would always encourage. That one just didn't work out.
When we're sitting here on May 18th and you're seeing the stats so far for Lopez and Arise, how do you feel about that deal? You still good with that, or is that a win on each side in your mind?
It might be the rare deal where it's a good deal for both teams.
Yeah.
I mean, the Twins are focused on pitching, and it's something they haven't been known for, and now they have it, and they went out and they made a big move to get that. I mean, we know Arise can hit. That wasn't a surprise. Nope. The fact that he's been in a slump and he's still 350 or something like that. He can hit. So I think that's a good deal for both teams. The Twins did get a couple of minor leaguers in the lower levels that are worth watching and seeing what pans out there. But you got it. We just talked about it. You got to give up something to get something, especially for pitching. And that was a big cost on both sides.
A couple minutes left here with Seth as we're talking about the Twins. I am interested when we bring up the division standings each day and see where the Central is. In your mind, is 85, 86, 88 wins, you think, going to be enough to do this, or you got to get to 90 to win the division this year?
Yeah, no, I would guess, 88 would probably win the division for you by about 6 or 7 or 8 games. And that's true in the NL Central as well. I think that the change in the schedule where you're not playing all the division teams 18 times, you're playing, or 19 times, you're playing them 12 or 13 times. That's going to be significant. The Twins have played the Dodgers, they played the Yankees, they played the Astros already this year. And, you're going to see all the teams, the Padres. And to me, that's interesting. It's fun.
Yep.
But it definitely will highlight how poor the AL Central really is.
All right, the big question everybody wants to know, and I'll ask you, is Royce Lewis is back. He's hitting the cover off the ball. When do we see him back with the Twins?
Yeah, I mean, they put him on the 60-day IL. His first day that he is eligible to be back is, I think, June 1st. That coincides perfectly with the 20-day limit on the rehab assignment. So I expect June 1st he'll be up. Unless something changes, either a setback or I don't know. But he's so good, and his personality and leadership skills they rub off on people, and I think having him on the roster makes them a better team.
Well, I was mentioning this with Dick Bramer yesterday. He was on the show. We're nearly right around that year mark where last year he comes up when Correa got hurt, and boy, that 10 days, Seth, he was amazing. He looked like he had been in the majors for 5 years at that point, and obviously we know what happened when he got thrown out of the outfield. The question now, though, is when he comes up, where do you play him? Because he's not coming up and sitting on the bench.
Yeah, and they've had him play. He's played had 3 rehab games, and I think he's played shortstop twice and third base once. I think the expectation is probably third base. But thankfully, Kyle Farmer's done a nice job taking over for Jose Miranda. So they don't need to rush Lewis either. I mean, if he is struggling or if he has, anything, they can be patient. They can option him, things like that. But I do think they're going to want that type of an impact player. He'll play some short. He'll probably play some second. He'll probably play a lot of third, and put Farmer back in that utility type of role.
What, from your people you've talked to with Miranda, what's happened there? And I know they're still high on him, but what do you think is the near-term prognosis for him?
Well, what made him so good the last couple of years, and they always believed in his bat, but the fact is he doesn't swing and miss very often, and there was a lot of that this year. He also gets himself out a lot of times by swinging at a pitcher's pitch, and that's something he didn't do the last couple of years. So he's got to get back to knowing the strike zone, swinging at strikes, because he can flat out mash when he is aggressively patient, if that's the right way to say that, because he can take a hack, but at the same time, if he's swinging at pitcher's pitches down below the zone, he's hit into a ton of double plays, and it's frustrating for him, I'm sure, too, because he does have the talent. Now Lewis is in the picture, Brooks Lee is in the picture. Could he play first? Is he just a DH? I mean, with Buxton at DH, that's not opening up anytime soon. So, it is a question mark, and thankfully he's young. He's got, 2 options left. He'll be okay, but it'll be interesting.
It's great stuff as always, bud. Thanks so much for your insight. Enjoy, hopefully, some nice weather up there. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you, bud. There he goes, Seth Stohs from TwinsDaily.com. As we mentioned, Twins will have some roster moves to make with the injury to Nick Gordon. Joey Gallo went down. Jorge Polanco went down. Twins are off today before they open up a series with the Angels beginning tomorrow night. We'll take a break. We'll update things from the golf course. Got a couple other things to visit on as well. Mike Zier coming up at 10:35 from Beach, North Dakota. We'll do that as Hot Mike rolls on a Thursday morning. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mike rolls on a Thursday morning. WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, and Sioux Falls, Inforum.com. Reminder tonight, we've got baseball coming up tonight. North Dakota State and South Dakota State. Coverage begins at 6:30 right here. You also see it in Sioux Falls as well, and it'll be streaming online. Here is the baseball scenarios for this weekend. Oral Roberts has already clinched the number 1 seed. They will host the tournament next year in 2024 in Tulsa. Everything else after that is up for grabs. The Bison only need 1 win, and they will be the 2 seed. So if they get that tonight, they will clinch the 2nd seed in the Summit League tournament next week. The Jackrabbits have to sweep the Bison to move and leapfrog NDSU up to the 2 spot. One way or the other, we know NDSU, SDSU are playing the 2nd game, the night game, next Wednesday at Newman Outdoor Field. The 4th spot, you need hieroglyphics probably to figure this out. Omaha, Northern Colorado, and Western Illinois are still alive. Omaha has a slight, as you see, half-game lead over Western. Northern Colorado needs to sweep Omaha this weekend and have Western Illinois drop 2 or 3 to Oral Roberts to get in for the first time. That's what Northern Colorado has to do. They have to sweep the Mavericks and Western Illinois is not going to beat Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts lost 1 game all year in conference play. That was to the Bison. UNC would be eliminated with a loss at any point in the series with Omaha. Western needs to win at least 2 games against Oral Roberts to have a chance to move on. And you know what? No one in the Summit League wants to see Western Illinois at the tournament knowing that they're leaving. If UNC were to sweep Western and Omaha went 1-2 against Oral Roberts, I know this is a lot here, UNC would own the tiebreaker because they won the regular season series against Western. It's a lot to get in. Either way, it looks like it's going to be either Omaha or Western Illinois making it into the field. That'll be in Fargo next week. And you'll see all those games right here on Extra beginning next Wednesday at noon with the first game of the tournament. So that's where things are at. The Bison are not going to go with their top guy tonight. Cade Feeney will not pitch against South Dakota State. That's because of the last weekend's weather issues. The Bison did not play Friday. They did not play Saturday. They played a doubleheader Sunday with Omaha. Feeney and Tristan Rorich, their number 1-2 guys, pitched in that doubleheader Sunday. So they are not coming back on short rest. That they know all they need is 1 to get the 2 seed. That Tyler Oaks, NDSU head coach, is saving Feeney for that game next Wednesday against the Jacks. That's the one they want. Get into the winner's bracket and then see what happens from there. They want to they really want to get Oral Roberts up here. You'll remember they didn't play the Golden Eagles in Fargo. That series that was supposed to happen in the middle of April was again snowed out and moved to Iowa. And NDSU played, Tyler was on the show last week. They played Oral Roberts tough in that series. They lost the first game, won the second game, lost the third game in 13 innings. So they went toe-to-toe with Oral Roberts, and they think, why not get him on our diamond and let's see what happens. Or he was really good. They have handled everybody in the league as they normally do, and it's going to take something else to beat them. They've won 40 games already this season. They're 40-11, as you saw on their record there. But the Bison, I'll remind everybody, at one point this year, NDSU was 1-16. They were 1-16. Okay? They've rallied back now. They've got 20 wins on the season. They went 19-11 after a 1-16 start. Not too bad for where things sat. So excited to bring you that for the next 2 nights. And it doesn't really matter what sport they're playing. You normally have some pretty good action on the diamond. And I imagine that's exactly what we're going to get coming up tonight and tomorrow night. Real quick before we go to break, this came in this morning, and I think it's of relevance for sports fans in the area. James Madison announced the launch of the Montpelier Collective. that will help provide opportunities for JMU student athletes to benefit from their name, image, and likeness. The Montpelier Collective is not affiliated with JMU Athletics officially, but is acknowledged by the department and will operate within NCAA, Sunbelt, and Virginia parameters to enhance opportunities for JMU student athletes. The collective's moniker derives from the nearby Virginia home of former United States President James Madison. So here's another one that has been formed of numerous schools that we've seen across the country that have gone and done this over the last, I'd say, 12 to 18 months. And I think everybody knows who listens or watches the show where I stand on it with North Dakota State and South Dakota State that they are behind on this and need to hop on board. There's no way you're telling me there's not any money that could be involved here, okay? There's plenty of Bison fans I know that would love to have something like this. It takes somebody to get the ball rolling. Maybe that started. I've asked. I haven't heard. I know plenty of Bison fans that have lots of money to spend that I don't think they would have any issue of giving some to get this going. Because this is, you want to be in the game. You want to be in the talking point of some headline recruits. As much as you might find it distasteful, this is how the business is operating right now. And there's not going to be any guardrails set up for it. This is where you got to get into. So James Madison's on board. No surprise. The Dukes moved up, had great success in their first year Division I. This is just the next logical step. If they want to be competing in that part of the country to get some elite athletes, this is what you got to do. We'll break. We come back. One of our all-time favorite guests will join the show. From Beach, North Dakota, Mike Zier will join us about another nine-man guy finding success and what that's doing for nine-man football in North Dakota. That and much more when Hot Mike returns right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mike rolls on here on a Thursday morning. WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, Inforum.com. Hopefully Mike Zier will join us here in a few minutes. I know he had something going on at 10, but he told us he should be able to make it work, so hopefully we'll have a chance to visit with him in just a few minutes. And was looking ahead here because we always talk high school football on this show, and with the upcoming divisions for 2023. We've been dominated with the three-class basketball talk in our high school conversations on this show that I never am far away from talking about the football plan and where things are at there. And for the divisions and how things are going to look in 2023, which will be different. One, Cavalier, 9-man power that lost that thriller in the 9-man championship game to New Salem last year because of success points, is now bumped up to 11-man football. They're in 11B for the 2023 season. A couple other teams that have opted down. Sargent County back in 9-man. No surprise there. No one with the attendance and enrollment issues there. That you can't really be surprised on that. But our next guest shared with me what the map would look like for regions for 40 teams potentially in 2023, which the swath of the state, specifically Region 4, would go all the way from basically the border all the way to Jamestown, which is a great way to bring on our next guest, who is one of our favorites on the show. I get asked to repeatedly put him on. Do I have to introduce you differently now as WDAY football analyst? Does that work for you?
Yeah, any way you want, Dom. It's the last week of school. You can introduce me any way you want.
It's great to see you, bud. Mike Zier joins us, head football coach and track coach at Beach. Well, first, I know you tweeted this out. Tell me how bad the smoke is out there. I know you got region track going on. What's the latest on what's happening?
So today's a lot better. Yesterday was the worst I'd ever seen it.
Mm.
In fact, I looked it up. The Bison Grizzly game with the smoke, right?
Yeah.
The smoke index for that was 184. And yesterday in our area was over like 500.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow.
I literally thought that the fire was like across the street.
No kidding.
We're talking eyes burning, lungs hurting, but I did find a hack. I shut my classroom door, turned the AC on high, and then we have these, because we got them because of COVID, these little air filter deals.
Yep.
They have turbo, so you can put them on turbo. And then in my room, it was okay, but it was the first time I ever canceled track practice the week of regional track.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't be out there when it's like, it's funny you mentioned that because I played the video off the top of the show of that game in 2015 in Missoula, and I thought that was bad. You're telling me it was 4 times worse out there yesterday. That's crazy.
Yeah, if not more.
Man.
I mean, it was interesting, and it was normally when you get that smoke, you can't really smell it.
No.
It doesn't burn your eye. I mean, my eyes were affected. My wife's lungs were a little bit affected, and you certainly couldn't do any kind of activity.
Yeah.
Even my throwers, I didn't want to put them out there. But it looks like the weather's going to be good for our regionals tomorrow. It looks like, and today is okay. We're going to practice today. But yesterday it was unbelievable.
All right, let me throw this crazy idea at you because of how awful the spring weather has been on every part of the state. If I were to tell you to move everything 2 or 3 weeks later, would that be how much pushback would there be from track? Because I know they like having the state track meet built around Memorial Day weekend. Would that be a non-starter?
So here's my counter to you on this, because I know how you feel about this. So there's a reason that a lot of smaller schools can't have Legion baseball. They don't get enough kids.
Right.
So if you push track back, like this is our last day of school is tomorrow. If you push it back 3 more weeks, I'm just being flat honest with you. I don't know how many kids I can get
Yeah.
that are going to give up 3 weeks of their summer vacation to be in track. Uh, as far as me personally, I mean, I would do it because I love coaching track. And at the Class A schools, you probably would have a dip in numbers, but you might not notice it. So that's my main concern with that.
Okay, now on the flip side, if I were to tell you, let's start football 3 weeks later, would you be on board with that one?
Well, you know how I feel about. I mean, we start like August 4th
Yes.
or 5th or something this year. I mean, pretty soon it's going to be July. I don't. That's a hold that North Dakota doesn't want to change their schedule.
No.
They want the Dakota Bowl at the same time. You know, we got a good format now where they can be televised on that Friday. You know, because there's no Bison games obviously on Friday. But yeah, I think the calendar flips back next year though, so maybe it's a little bit more mid of August because it's horrible right now.
I know you shared with me the potential region maps in 9-man that, especially for you guys in Region 4, you're going from where you are all the way basically to Jamestown. Is that how it's looking for your schedule for this upcoming year, or is it in 24?
Yeah, no, we changed our schedule this year. We do have something that's going to be kind of exciting though. We're gonna that first weekend, all of our teams are going to get together and play in Mandan at the Starion Field.
Nice.
And so yeah, and then we're going to play South Border. Ashley Wishick, our longest trip, will be at that game. So we're looking forward to that. And then yeah, we still play Napoleon, and then we added Linton back. So yeah, we'll be on the road. But the biggest change is we got added 9 games now. We're gonna have 9 regular season games. We took out that first round of the playoffs essentially, and so that'll be the biggest switch.
What do you make of that, of trading a regular season game for the extra week of the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too huge on it. You know, I'm a big postseason guy. You know that.
Yep.
But I get it. I understand it. The main thing is that everyone's guaranteed games, and we've seen that at the other divisions. Look what that's caused, right? Unless teams have to come to Beach to play, Dom, they won't come to Beach because it's so far away. And so you're finding that at those other schools, you know, they're like, well, wait a minute, why are we not playing a school right across town as opposed to someone in our division?
What's your shortest road trip for people that don't know? What's your shortest trip that you have?
Our shortest trip would be, I believe, if we play Hettinger Scranton in Scranton, or down to Mott, which would be, an hour and a half one way.
It's just that's the name of the game, right? If you want to play games, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, and that really hasn't changed too much. When we were 11 man prior to 09, I mean, we had to go to Des Lacs, Burlington, and we did play Garrison and also Kinmare for non-conference games. So we travel a lot. Basketball is where it's changed, now, especially with Heart River breaking up.
Right.
We'll get 2 closer games there. But no, football, we're wheels up. It's a kind of a whole day deal now, I mean, we have to stop for lunch and all that stuff.
How is for the guys' reaction to the deal in Mandan? Is that a positive reaction, or what do you think that will be for when you guys open up?
Yeah, I think we're pretty excited. I think especially after I announce that we're going to Culver's afterwards. We don't get out of town much, Dom. So when we get a trip to the city, we have to plan accordingly. No, we're excited.
I got to ask you, because we had Nate Tastet on last week from Roulette, and then in the news of Cody Mauch's remarkable run here from North Dakota 9-man, as a 9-man coach and talking with your colleagues, how much is this strengthen North Dakota 9-man football? What's happened with Cordell Volson and Cody Mauch over the last couple of years?
Well, it solidifies what we already know. I mean, and that is that we have good football and we have good football players. We just don't have a lot of numbers, and that we travel a lot and especially the kids that you're seeing coming out of 9-man, you're going to see those bigger, stronger, farm ranch type kids. And no, it solidifies who we are. Really, we're rural. 9-man football's rural, and that's the way it should be.
How much is it a point of pride now, Mike? You guys have that to go around and, hey, you know what? We got a couple NFL guys that have played North Dakota 9-man ball.
Yeah, and I remember when Landon was going through
Yes.
for us. I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, who thinks a kid from Beach, North Dakota, is going to be named Missouri Valley Conference Lineman of the Week versus the Iowa Hawkeyes? I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean that's a once in a lifetime type thing. So, no, 9-man is strong and getting stronger.
All right, I got to ask since you're here. We're closing in here, about 100 days out from the start of the season. What do we make of the Mighty Grizz for 2023? What are the after the game in Fargo? That was the last game they played. What do we make for the Grizz in 23?
Well, I mean, they brought in a lot of transfers. I mean,
Yep.
I mean, how does anyone really know? I
They
mean,
don't.
you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, even at the spring game and you just don't know. I mean, I think it looks pretty good. The lines are getting better, and that's what they need. The
Wow.
O and D lines need to get bigger and stronger to compete with the Missouri Valley, and on a consistent basis. And I think they're getting better. And I'm excited. Always am. I don't know if I'll get out to a game next fall, but I hope to.
It's weird not having Eastern Washington on the schedule, isn't it? That's a rivalry game that's not there this year for them.
Well, that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very weird. And but when you have that, whatever you call it, flex scheduling for the conference and stuff, and then where it really hurts the Big Sky and or helps, I guess, depends on you look at
Yeah.
it, is you're going to get 3 teams at the top that either maybe you only have 1 loss or no losses.
Correct.
So they're going to have to get in, and they're probably going to have a seed.
Well, we knew what was going to happen last year, like with Sacramento State, right? With Sac State and Montana State, they didn't play. That you knew that, or that they didn't end up. They did play during the season, but you know what I mean. Like there wasn't a battle on the field that you didn't have how this was going to be settled. I don't like that.
Yeah, no, well, and that's the biggest problem, right? I
Yeah.
mean, but in theory, that can happen in the Missouri Valley too, But
No doubt.
are they ever going to have NDSU not play South Dakota State?
Nope. That's
See,
going to
and
happen
that's
every
where
year.
in the Big Sky, in the Big Sky, they're going to have the Grizz not play Eastern or whatever,
Yeah.
because there's more parity, right?
Yeah.
Right now, anyways.
Yeah.
And with Weber, I mean, you never know.
Yeah,
But,
and the Grizz don't
yeah.
play Weber either next year. That's the no Weber, no Eastern Washington. You better win 10 games next year. That's what I'm telling you right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, exactly. Done deal.
All
Done
right.
deal.
Before we go, I gotta ask, because I haven't asked you what was the feedback you got from your TV debut? What did you hear back? I gotta know.
Oh, for my color at the stage.
Yes.
Well, it's just like anything else in my life. People aren't going to tell me how bad I am. I mean, I think the feedback was good. Everyone said that they liked it, but they're also my friends that say it. So let me ask you, what was your feedback?
I thought, well,
what was
first
your
off,
feedback?
I know you. I thought you were going to do great, and you did. And here's the thing: you got an awesome game, so that helps. You got that, and you told people exactly what happens in 9-man football. I thought you did a great job. I really did.
I only have one regret. This is the first game I ever did. I was so nervous. I went up there and I saw that you guys have so many donuts and stuff. And I'm like, I didn't eat anything. And I'm like, I better not eat anything. I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so if I get the opportunity to do it again, I'm going to have some donuts. So, because I won't be as nervous. But I had a good time doing it, and I really enjoyed it.
Our crew is asking me to ask you, did you hear from Troy Mattern? Because he's done it before. Did he give you any feedback?
Oh, well, Troy Mattern gives me feedback on a regular basis. I mean, the guy specifically joined Twitter just to reply to me about 4 times a year.
About right, yeah.
Yeah, and so I did actually hear some feedback from him. So he said I heard a lot of positive feedback from my friends.
Okay, so listen to this. He was in the booth in 21, and then he won the championship. So you were in the booth this year. That means Beach is winning the whole thing in 23. That's how it's got to go.
I guess. I mean, if you believe in that stuff, right? And I understand you're a Mets fan, so you have to reach for stuff like that. I get it, right? So the lunar eclipse was happening.
Take whatever. Hey, man, we take whatever we can get. That's how
exactly.
it works. So it's great to see you, man. Have a great rest of the school year, and good luck at track. And I'll talk to you this summer. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Have a good one.
Good to see you, bud. There he goes, Mike Zier, one of our all-time faves, the Beach head football and track coach. Giving us the update on what's going on out there. Thankfully, it looks like the smoke has dissipated a bit as they'll get ready for the region track meet, and the state meet, which begins a week from today in Bismarck. We'll take our final break. We come back. We'll wrap up the show, get you ready for a busy Sports Thursday. We'll do that when Hot Mike wraps right after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL, and Inforum.com. Don't forget, everybody, we've got live sports for you tonight here on Extra. North Dakota State baseball at Newman Outdoor Field as they'll welcome in South Dakota State. Coverage begins at 6:30. We'll be with you tonight and tomorrow night. The final weekend of the regular season is here for Summit League Baseball. Bison, a win, one win will get them the 2 seed for the Summit League tournament, which begins next week. Quick Wolves update, because I know you guys want that. from our good friend Darren Doogie Wolfson out of KSTP in the Twin Cities. He had visited with Timberwolves owner Glenn Taylor. Told me that Wolfsford Kyle Anderson underwent eye surgery yesterday. All went well. Underplayed storyline once the season ended. His eye was pretty messed up. You'll remember that was a friendly fire incident, if I remember right, that happened in Game 4 of the first-round series with the Nuggets. Just another guy that the Wolves needed that went down over the last 3 weeks of the season. And obviously he did not play in Game 5, the final game of the season when the Wolves lost to the Nuggets. So good to hear he's on the mend. Already the rumors are out there. And again, this NBA offseason is going to be wild. I imagine there are going to be a couple of blockbuster trades. Karl Anthony Towns' name has already been thrown out there with the Portland Trail Blazers to pay maybe that the Blazers move the 3 pick to the Wolves and the Wolves send Cat to pair up with Dame Lillard out there. I'll say this. I think everyone knows where I am with Cat, but if the Wolves are able to sign Naz Reid and bring him back, because I thought he was great prior to him getting hurt and missing the end of the season with the broken wrist that happened in Phoenix. If they bring Naz back, then Cat may be expendable. I know that sounds ludicrous to some. He was the former number 1 pick, but maybe that's where they got to go. And you go get a point guard with the number 3 pick. I don't know. Something to keep an eye on this summer. Let's get you ready for what to watch before we get out of here on this Thursday. We mentioned Bison Jackrabbits coming up tonight, 6:30 on WDAY Extra. Myself, David Ernst, and Logan Campbell will be on the call tonight of that one from Newman Outdoor Field. The PGA Championship television coverage gets going at noon on ESPN. Our Tom Hoagie really struggling, 4 over through the first 9 holes of his first round. So hopefully he can have a better back 9 so he can stick around for the weekend. Coverage coming up tonight, today on ESPN. And we mentioned it's Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Panthers and Hurricanes, 7 o'clock tonight on TNT. Thanks to our guests today, to Wyatt Wheeler, Seth Stohs, and to Mike Zier. If you missed any of our show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. We'll see everybody up at the Diamond tonight and back here tomorrow on Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, and Inforum.com. Have a great day, everybody.
people thinks twice. Boyd knows. I said we should come clean a month ago, and I'm gonna go talk to him.
You know it's different for me.
We'll cool it for now.
I wish I could have seen more of your city.
It's beautiful, even when it isn't.
I want you so bad right now.
My place, 1 hour.
Okay, who knows it? Okay, everybody.